are you?
My name's Hillary. Who are you?
Eli Hurdle,
Where are you from?
Victoria, BC.
We do the free prior informed consent on the bridge that just comes from Unist'oten territory into Unist'oten territory as we go through the action camp. Every participant has to go through the process. Some of them go through groups, some go individually, and we ask the questions: who are you? Where are you from? Why are you here? How long do you plan to stay? Have you worked for industry or government that's destroying our lands? What kind of skills do you bring? And how will your visit benefit my people?
This territory has been unceded and has always been unceded. It belongs to the Unist'oten. They've never given it up to anybody, given permission for anybody else to make decisions on it. And that's why the road looks up here today. This place is quite strong. There's a lot of spirits here, and they're protecting this territory just as much as we are.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Frida Houston, Unist'oten.
Togasta. Togasta.
Unceded means that we've never surrendered our soul, or we've never lost it to war. It's always belonged to my people. And the government or the province, federal government, doesn't have no deed showing that we sold our land or anything like that. About 4 years ago, we decided to start a camp right directly in the path of Enbridge and Pacific Trails Pipelines route. So we started out by putting up a log cabin right in a GPS route and decided from there that we wanted to build a permanent camp. And after we put the cabin here in the GPS route of Enbridge and Pacific Trails, they moved their route upstream about a kilometer and a half. We were planning to build a pit house anyways, but we decided to put the pit house in the GPS route of PTP as well as the permaculture garden to block them. And once the pit house is completed, we're planning to actually live in it because it will be a livable structure. Our ancestors used those for thousands of years, and we're just trying to go back to living in a home structure like that because they're cool in the summer and they're warm in the winters. So it's another form of, we figured this worked, we'll keep on doing it. Little does those companies know, if even though they're moving upstream, it's still our territory. So there's no way around us. Our whole territory reaches right in towards the path of them getting to Kitimat.
The four major pipelines that pose a threat to the Wet'suwet'en are the Pacific Trails Pipeline, the recently approved Northern Gateway Enbridge Pipeline, the Coastal GasLink pipelines, and the Pembina Pipeline's expansion.
All told, the pipelines would cover about 3,000 kilometers of land, and between the prospective projects and existing Pembina lines, would transport well over 1 billion barrels of LNG, bitumen, and condensate, with the majority being piped to Kitimat on the west coast, where it would be loaded onto supertankers and exported to Asian markets.
The Pacific Trails Pipeline is an approved $1.2 billion project co-owned by Chevron and Apache. The pipeline would link the company's hydraulic fracturing operations in the Laird and Horn River basins of northeastern BC to their proposed liquid natural gas processing plant on the west coast. The intended route would pave the way for the improved Enbridge Northern Gateway pipeline and the remaining proposed pipeline projects.
The Unist'oten are one of 5 clans in the Wet'suwet'en Nation. Their territories make up approximately 2/3 of the entire 22,000 square kilometer land base of the traditional Wet'suwet'en territories. While the number of people living at the camp fluctuates, the core group of land defenders is made up of grassroots members of the Wet'suwet'en.
4 years ago when we came back, we decided to start implementing that, what our ancestors have done for thousands of years, and that is to question people before we let them in. And if they can't answer those questions that I stated earlier successfully, then they're turned away. Because time and time industry has come in and they've gone and they've exploited our whole territories, destroying it, and Now when we ask this question, industry is usually the hardest people that we've had some of them come in. They can't answer that, how their visit's going to benefit my people.
Whenever we tell people about what's happening here, if they want to travel into these territories, we inform them that these territories are unceded, which means if they're coming in carrying permits from the provincial or federal government or licenses, that those are not valid as soon as they cross over into the territory. The territory here belongs to the Unist'oten, always has, always will, and there's no intention of ever selling it out to anybody for any price that they might try and dangle in front of us. Fracking and tar sands pipelines, the bitumen that they want to kind of bring in from the tar sands of Alberta, are completely contradictory to stewardship of the lands because it's the most destructive practices that humanity's ever invented to any piece of land anywhere, whether it be in situ mining for tar sands or open pit mining of tar sands to hydraulic fracturing of the shale formations in northeastern BC. You know, all of those processes actively and openly inject toxins into the earth to extract what they want, whether it be crude oil or mock oil in the form of bitumen coming out of the tar sands, or the so-called natural gas. It's a fracking gas that comes out of the Horn River Basin in northeastern BC. You know, the act of doing that is not just detrimental, it's catastrophic to humankind. We as humans will not be able to survive on this earth if we let those types of behaviors go on unchecked.
The First Nations Limited Partnership is the group created by Chevron, Apache, and 15 band councils whose reserve lands are located along the proposed route of the Pacific Trails pipeline. In February 2013, PTP, the FNLP, and the province of BC signed an agreement worth over $200 million in financial benefits and shares in the project, in an attempt to garner indigenous support and claim it was consulting First Nations. This is controversial because band councils only have jurisdiction over reserve lands, while the Unist'oten and other traditional peoples are responsible for all of their unceded ancestral territories.
Enbridge, Kinder Morgan, Pembina, PTP, Spectra, TransCanada, and Alta, and Petronas, all of these companies, they're all saying that they're going to do this. But why are they waiting? Why didn't they do it already? They're claiming that it's going to get done and that they're got the support of all these native nations across their proposal routes. They're signing these agreements so that they will have persons who are protecting their lands with their rights and title. Their rights and title is not extinguished. They did not sign treaties. These are unceded, occupied lands. And so why I'm theorizing this is because they picked such a beautiful and pristine area to lay pipe for these disgusting projects. And it's a given that there's going to be strong opposition here.
We have a court case behind us. We're the Wet'suwet'en people, and our people were 50-50 plaintiffs in the largest court case on land in Canada ever. It was held in the Supreme Court of Canada, and the final decision was rendered back on December 27th of 1997, where 5 judges ruled in favor of the Wet'suwet'en for a land claims court case. They went so far as to say that we have unceded lands that need to be protected and recognized by the federal government and industry. And their recommendations for the court case, at the end of the court case, within their ruling, was that industry and government begin doing meaningful consultation with our people. And that was back in 1997, and that hasn't happened yet. Our people are still waiting for that meaningful consultation to start. we've attempted to sit down with these guys, and they've skirted around the issue as much as they could, stalled it as long as they could, and entertained us in this BC treaty process to try and kind of dazzle these false images in front of us for a while they're raping and pillaging as much as they could, as fast as they could. They just rapidly increased the rate of extraction on our territories to the point where we kind of took a step back and had a look around and said, holy crap, this is all we have left of our territories. This is all we have left. What are we going to do?
In 1984, 35 Gitxsan and 13 Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs instituted proceedings against the province of British Columbia. They claimed, both individually and on behalf of their respective houses, ownership, unextinguished Aboriginal title, and resulting jurisdiction, entitlement to govern by Aboriginal laws, over separate portions of territory in northwest British Columbia, totaling 58,000 square kilometers.
The Supreme Court of Canada's Delgamuukw decision was expected to have significant repercussions on the future negotiation and settlement of comprehensive land claims based on Aboriginal title, land use policy, and Aboriginal title litigation in those regions of the country where traditional Aboriginal lands have not been ceded by treaty. These include not only most of British Columbia, but also parts of Quebec and Atlantic Canada.
The Wet'suwet'en are governed by our traditional governance system. So there's stewardship and there's responsibilities that all of the people have, and all of the clan members also have that responsibility to the territories. The difference is with the Indian Act chiefs is that that's an imposed Western system. So it's inherently hierarchical, and it's totally contrary to our own governance system. And the actual Indian Act bans, they call themselves, they say they have a chief and councillors. And that's very misleading because it believes people to think that is their chief, when in fact it's an imposed elected position, and it's actually the chief councillor. So we're trying to change that language to actually identify those people who are acting as chiefs, and people are often regarding them as the chiefs of the territories, but they're actually an elected chief councillor and have councillors that work with them. But that's a system that was imposed through the Indian Act, and really to undermine our hereditary governance system that had a responsibility to the land and to the people. And the Indian Act Band Council system has a responsibility to the federal government.
On June 26, 2014, the Supreme Court of Canada in Unist'ot'en Nation versus British Columbia made the first court declaration of Aboriginal title in Canadian history. The ruling granted a right of collective ownership to more than 1,700 square kilometers that would give the Unist'ot'en people the primary rights to decide how the lands would be used. The decision was hailed as a watershed moment for First Nations to achieve recognition of their inherent title and authority over their ancestral lands. But the burden falls on the First Nations to prove their title. To establish Aboriginal title, a people existing on their land for thousands of years must endure the costs and stress of a lengthy legal proceeding in colonial courts, established by settlers on unceded First Nations land through centuries of genocide.
For us, the ownership of the territory is a marriage of the chief and the land. Each chief has an ancestor who encountered and acknowledged the life of the land. From such encounters come power. The land, the plants, the animals, and the people all have spirit. They all must be shown respect. That is the basis of our law. By following the law, the power flows from the land to the people through the chief. By using the wealth of the territory, the house feasts its chief so he can properly fulfill the law. This cycle has been repeated on my land for thousands of years. Gistewe and Delgamuukw from the Delgamuukw court case. the idea of developing an action camp is to actually have real action behind it. And I think this year is the first year where we actually did some like serious action planning. Last year we started to kind of touch it a little bit. We moved up and we were like, okay, let's put together an action plan, but it's an action plan on creating awareness so we can recruit more people and start up raising up the caliber of people that we want to have here at our camps, have here as a support people, have people in the cities and urban centers and wherever, all over the globe, offering solidarity to what we're doing and actually doing something tangible.
I got involved as a supporter of the Unist'oten camp years ago from a place of admiration of what's happening here. You know, I know a lot of people. I have a lot of friends who, talk the talk and read a lot of books about radical politics and can talk for hours about militant strategies and reasons why we should all be involved in the movement. I don't know many folks that actually put their feet on the ground and live it. And that's what's happening out here right now, is a really radical thing where people who believe in militant resistance are actually living their politics. And they're out on the land, using their bodies and their minds and their hearts to resist capitalism and colonization. So seeing that happen in real time in my life is inspiring.
With more grassroots people in the last few years, it's become really huge. People are coming because they actually care about what's happening. People are coming because they want to see what they can do. They want to physically see with their own eyes what other Indigenous peoples are doing to resist, and to not only resist but to fight back and start asserting ourselves again. To resist in a way that's empowering our own governance and that's empowering our own people and our responsibilities to the land. We're not asking that other people do the job for us. We're looking at a way that we can empower ourselves and empower our own lives and people with the support of other people, raising that awareness and creating that buffer where it's not just all on us, because it's a bigger problem. It affects everybody, and everybody's not going to do it the same. Everyone's not going to resist the pipelines the same way, or the destruction or the fracking. But people want to see the way that it's happening here, because it's really powerful.
What's happening here is one of the most radical things that I know about in North America. At this point, I think it's crucial. It's completely necessary for our communities to build a resistance to climate change and to capitalism and to things like that. And to do that effectively, we need to focus our energies on the roots of the problem. We need to understand, where this crisis is coming from so that we can resolve it. Two of the most effective lenses that I can think of to understand that problem are capitalism and colonization, which is exactly what's happening here. We're building a resistance to those kind of fundamental principles.
A lot of people who have come through the camps, even though they're into activism, and most of them live in the city centers, and when they come here and actually see what it is we're protecting and hearing all what other people are doing, it really changes them. They said it really gives them a push to want to do more to save the environment, because it's impacting everybody, not just the Indigenous people, but everybody's being impacted.
Solidarity for me is about acknowledging that my liberation is tied to the liberation of people who are living out on the territories here. As an activist in urban communities, I mean, there's all kinds of things I can do to get involved. And I hesitate to say there's any one thing or any specific activity people can take. The point is that you just have to take an interest. And as soon as you open your mind and start looking for ways to get involved, questions start answering themselves.
I'm trying to work on bringing youth out to live our own traditional lifestyles again, to start moving out from the cities and just heal themselves, fix themselves, because they're broken. I was broken when I lived there. I didn't even realize it until I came back to the land, and I had this spiritual awakening that I can't really define, but whenever I'd go back to the city, I'd have this thing pulling me back. Every time I slept, I'd have a dream of going back there, and something is bringing me back here.
Now that we have a son, we have a 2.5-year-old, for me, that was a really big push to get active and get organized. I couldn't watch his territory just get destroyed and him be left with nothing, and him to ask me what did I do. I would have failed him as a father. So that's, as grassroots organizers, that's what our responsibilities are, and that's where they lie, is with our kids and his unborn.
We want to ensure that his life, that he can grow up on the territory, that he has a life with the opportunity to know his medicines, know how to hunt and know how to trap and know how to be a Wet'suwet'en man, grow up to be a Wet'suwet'en man. But a lot of it is the depths of which all of the lands have already been exploited. There are not a lot of areas that you can go and even hunt moose anymore, or pick the berries, or pick the medicines. And it's really about our future, but also about the fact that we're being pushed to the edge.
We're past that tipping point. That tipping point's come and gone. And we're in a downward spiral, and everybody's just sitting back and sipping on their Coca-Colas and all this freaking junk food out there, and watching it all happen and unfold in front of them and pretending that they're oblivious to it. When underneath this facade of life, people actually can sense what's really happening, but they don't know what to do. And those of us who woke ourselves up are actually doing something about it. We are reaching out to everybody out there. We're reaching out to say, get off your sofas, get out of your dens, get out of your dorms, get out of the freaking library, stand up and walk out, have a look around, walk on a trail somewhere, feel those trees, take off your shoes, take off your socks, walk around for a while, feel the earth under your feet, smell the air, go look for a clean source of drinking water. Good luck in finding that. But if you find it, sit there and stay there for a while and enjoy it and realize what it is you've been missing. Because this is what sustains us as humanity. And just because we're stuck in four doors or four walls under fluorescent lights most of our lives, or on rubber wheels cruising around on these pavement roads and stuff, doesn't mean that we're that disconnected. We still have an opportunity to realize the earth that our ancestors embraced, the earth that all of our ancestors embraced at one time. And we still have that opportunity to do that and do what we can to protect her, because if we don't, she's going to slip out of her grip and she's going to let us go. She has no mercy. She'll let us go, and she'll be brutal about it.
We have to protect everything that's here, and we have to protect all of the animals that are still surviving, because we're not going to survive. We are the land, and if the land isn't here, then we aren't going to be here either. And we might be here, we might have to move, or we might have to bottle our water, but we won't be here as Wet'suwet'en. And that's what we're fighting for, is to be able to live on our lands as Wet'suwet'en people. And that's becoming harder and harder.
One thing we know when we travel out in the territory is we feel complete. Something in us, this void that has kind of followed us our entire lives, when we come out onto the land, suddenly that void is filled with something beautiful, something alive, and that's something that we can't shake loose once it grabs onto us. And it's something that is our driving force today. We're proud Wet'suwet'en, living proudly on Wet'suwet'en land, and fully capable of surviving into the next generations and bringing all the generations with us, the future generations with us, in a good way. And we want more people to understand that.